Welcome everyone back to the Me and the Making podcast. I am Melly, I'm your host, and we are in season 4. That feels weird to say, but time is moving. Time is moving very, very fast. And we are now in like the middle of 2026. So if you've been looking at the calendar, like where is it gone? I can't tell you, but hopefully you can settle in for like the next hour and listen to what we've got going on. So I would love to introduce to you Chanel, and I was made aware of Chanel on her show called We Was Watching Podcast. And this show, I was introduced to it. I think I found it from watching Industry, or maybe it was
Mm,
House of the Dragon. I'm not exactly really sure, but they talk about all your favorite shows that not a lot of other people are talking about, or maybe you don't know a lot of people in real life who's watching it, so you can listen to what they are talking about because you got to talk about it. I love to talk
mhm.
about movies and TV shows, but I don't know too many people in real life who are watching Industry. So when I stumbled upon their podcast, I was like, I have to get into this. And they're two black hosts. So that's great. This is one half of the We Was Watching duo. And Chanel, thank you so much for being on the show. Welcome.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what y'all are doing over there, it's so much fun. Y'all are doing like deep dives. Um,
Yeah.
your co-hosts like going in there like line by line. We're talking about every single little part of the TV show, and that's something that I really, really appreciate. So, how did you get into doing these deep dives on your TV shows?
Yeah, so the show itself has a I don't know if it's funny. It's funny to me start. So during the pandemic was when I really jumped into content creating and just being more consistent about it. I used to do live comedy when I lived in Austin, but I didn't do anything online. And then obviously pandemic got us into online. Um and there's this podcaster named Jeff versus the World who put together like a black podcaster kind of like group chat and was like, "Hey guys, I think it'd be fun to do this offshoot podcast of my show that's called Bad Meaning Bad or Bad Meaning Good." And so he would basically get a handful of us together to watch bad movies and then be like, "Okay, what kind of bad is it? Is it bad meaning bad or bad meaning good?" And so Brandon and I met on the episode where we reviewed Problem Child. With I don't do you remember it with the little badass boy and his dad was John Ritter? Yeah.
Well, I remember
It
hearing the movie, but I know that I did not watch it. But I do remember
yeah,
Problem. Yes.
it's like Dennis the Menace. Yeah, he's like a redhead, and everyone knows that's a proxy for black people. And he's a bad
Yes.
little boy. And me and Brandon were the only ones on the podcast. Like, wait a minute, y'all are going way too hard on Junior. He's doing his best. He's not that bad because it's an easy thing to call Junior a badass son. And so anyway, after that, I was like, I like his opinions. And around the time Succession was on season 2, but it was too late to do a Succession show. So we like actually like recorded an episode of the last season and we're like, this doesn't make sense, or the last episode of the second season. And then House of the Dragon came around. No, I don't remember. I think that was our first show. That was our first show, but also one of our first YouTube shows because we were a podcast only for a while. And so we were just building that momentum. And then House of Dragon came out, and that is when we started the show because somebody was when the show first came out, somebody retweeted it and it was like the clip where they revealed Corliss Valerian being a black man. And
Yes.
somebody said, "Wait, we was dragons?" And I was like, okay, that's the name of the podcast. So podcast was originally called We Was Dragons, and then we realized like it needs to be inclusive of all our other shows. So that's how it became We Was Watching. And Brandon and me is a mix of Brandon's like so detail oriented. He takes really good notes. And then I'm just there to do like color commentary. And it's funny because there's been a couple episodes where I've done the notes and I hated it. Hated it. I'm like, just let me react to you like that. Just let me cook and you do your thing. So I think we have a good I think we have a good chemistry. And but I think the show also can be a little bit more selective in our shows. Like right now we're kind of doing everything. We might need to re-investigate that, but for now I'm having a good time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the balance is really good, like having someone who is more detail oriented, like going beat by beat in each episode, and you're bringing in like the color commentary, like you're saying, you're bringing in what your thoughts are, like how it's
Mhm.
relating to the culture, like what is it that you kind of see is happening on the show, how you're relating to it, etc. I think that's a lot of fun. And House of the Dragon finally is coming back in June.
Yes. Season 3, yeah.
I can't
And I'm
believe
always
it's
like,
been like
"Ugh,"
what, a year
but
and a
then
half.
yeah, they do. I mean, they gotta go all the way back in history, so I get it. Like they have to build those sets out and do all that shit. But there's I do always have this thing of like how about anything Game of Thrones. I'm like, oh, here we go. And then when it comes back out, I'm like, okay, I love this. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. But it's like such a, I do like covering silly stuff because some of this stuff is so dark and deep and like all the families and the blood and the violence. Like sometimes I do like to balance out our stuff, and you're doing a better job of describing the show than I am, but basically we sometimes do like sci-fi and like comedy or a range of things. But as you mentioned, we talk about culture because like what you realize is politics is in writing everywhere. Like just what a writer or a writer's room believes, what the director and the creator want to get out is like all apparently on the page. And right now a lot of especially a lot of sci-fi stuff is grounded in like protest and talking about fascism and dictatorship and all that. And so you can't watch Severance, whatever, right? You can't watch these shows and not see that inherently. And I think that's what our show is the most fun about is like, or the most intriguing thing about our show is we will talk about, like you said, the nitty gritty and then what that means. And like yesterday, I shared something about my childhood, and Brandon made a joke about it immediately, and I was like, all right, well, I guess that's a good clip. But the point is that we just kind of let it all hang out, and I think that's sometimes people just want straight up dialogue and or straight up like description of the show, and they're never gonna get that from me because I'm like everything that comes up, I'm gonna share. But thank you. I'm also glad that you picked up on us, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess that's not a type of podcast that I would be interested in because like I could probably just do that same thing myself. Like I don't need
Yeah.
someone else to tell me literally what's happening on the
What
screen.
just happened?
I'm
Exactly.
watching
Yeah.
it, what's happened on the screen, but let's get into why are they doing that? Like you were mentioning the writing, how is it relating? Like are the
Mhm.
writers necessarily even picking up that some of these things are happening in culture, or maybe they're writing it and it is also happening and we can relate to
Yeah.
it in different ways. um and you had mentioned you had said something about your childhood
Hmm.
on the show. What was it kind of relating to? Because of course this show, and I didn't really introduce it too much, but this
Yeah.
show, to the people watching Me in the Making, I'd like to talk to people about like their childhoods, who they thought they were going to be when they were younger, who they are now, and what their journey has been to become who they are now, and who are they then becoming. So
Yeah.
you mentioned something about your childhood. Was it related to something that you were discussing on the show?
Yes. And it was me making fun of myself. But this topic is great. Like I love doing talking about stuff like this. And it's the type of show I want to do when I have more time to create and less like stuff to think about. I want to do a show like just like this where I'm sitting down and kind of thinking about like just more deep diving into like lifestyle stuff, or not lifestyle is cringe. I'm more like just, introspective introspection, and black women are so,
Lifestyle
you know
lifestyle
what I'm
can be
saying?
honest, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah, but
I
right,
know what
okay,
you
so that
mean.
part of it.
Yes.
That part of
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah.
like the black women who are like are authentically sharing and relating because I think we get so much from each other in terms of community and how we grow and help each other. And so anyway, the what I was sharing was that do you watch The Boys?
No, I have not gotten into it, but
Okay.
I hear
It's
good
definitely
things, but it
yeah,
also, like, it's violent and
it is violent.
I feel like I
It's
need
so
to get
violent.
into a headspace in order to watch The Boys.
No, it is violent. I don't know why it doesn't bother me as much, but it should. Like it's so it just takes all of the stuff we watch with like superhero stuff and makes it as grimy and as like realistic as possible. Like, of course, if you really had like a Superman, he'd be an asshole. That's kind of the premise of it. Or like, wow, when superheroes have sex, it's probably very messy and probably very crazy
Mm.
when you think about it. And so it's very raunchy,
Oh,
I would
so it's
say.
kind of digging into all of that.
Yes, like it's like most things that that are triggers in other instances they bring up in a way that like is turning it back around to the people who do these things wrong. So like there's like a through line. For example, one character gets like sexually harassed at work, and they you see it be dealt with in all these different ways, but the clear through line is like it's not okay, it shouldn't happen. But even though she goes through like him not getting consequences at first or whatever, like it's still for you as a watcher, you're like they agree that this is crazy, and they're showing it that this is crazy, but they're also showing that the bad guy might get away with it for a little bit because he has power and because of how patriarchy is. And so I recommend it. And then also it has a bunch of fine black men on it. So that's the and it,
Ooh.
you know, a lot of beautiful women if that's what you want. But like for me, I'm like, I love me some Laz Alonso. I love me some Jesse T. Usher. And so anyway, they are the point is there's this character, I won't spoil it for anyone, but there's this character who reunites with a parent who kind of abandoned them, and the parent has moved on to have another family, and you know, married somebody else, has a kid. And I was like, damn, this reminds me of the time I found out my dad went to Disneyland with the rest of my siblings. and and Brandon was like, oh yeah, you should have been a better kid. And I was like, that's crazy. That is insane that you I was like,
Blame the kid.
that yeah, and I was like, that's exactly what therapy is about, right? Like figuring out it's not my fault, I didn't do it. But I was like, damn. And these are the kind of things that you kind of have to laugh to keep from crying about. But it is a yeah, we could start at daddy issues, we could do whatever, what talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Right, right. Like, okay, how so you grew up, you have siblings. Oh,
Yes.
and you're also from Detroit, right? I'm also
Yeah.
from Detroit.
Oh really?
Yeah, yeah. When
Do
you
you
were
are
talking
you
about it
where are you
on
at
the
now?
oh, I live in Chicago now.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I came out here like 18 years ago, a very long
Oh
time ago.
wow,
But
amazing.
yeah, I would hear you mention something about Detroit, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm also from Detroit. Amon
Oh, I
and
love that. Oh, I wish you should just told me that from the beginning, girl. I would have been
everything.
lot. I mean, not that I wasn't locked in, but I'm like,
Right, right,
we're
right. I
yeah,
didn't have to
yeah,
convince you, but I
yes,
know what you
yes.
mean. I know what you mean. Yeah, so growing up, siblings and everything, and like how did you how were you able to find your voice?
Yeah, so I had like a staggered childhood, I would say is the best way to describe it, because my parents never married. They had me. My mother had my sister as a teenager, and then her dad died tragically. Um,
Mm,
the so she we grew up like kind of just our moms, and then my dad eventually was not, well, early on was not in the picture, and so it was really just me and my mom, or me and my sister aligned, and my mom, and then my dad got married soon after my parents broke up, and they have three kids, and so I'm the oldest and the youngest, and it creates like a very interesting like middle child effect sometimes.
mm.
um and so that's why I say staggered. So like when I say my dad went to Disney World, he went with like my other three siblings because they all live in the house together, and they're doing, who knows what they're doing at any given time, but it's like he I would say that when you have a kind of split household like that, the parents, your parents and your family only have to include you as much as they want to. And so, in a way, I'm very grateful for all the ways my dad showed up for me. But this is just one example of him not doing it. And I don't even know. I think I was grown. Like I was definitely out the house by then. But yeah, I think like the truth is, you get older and you recognize that, like, first of all, your parents are just two people, they're just two people who came together. And secondly, you realize like your parent can love you and still be going through their own thing where they have to love themselves, or they have to choose themselves over you, which sucks because no matter what, is you're gonna go to therapy for it, but it's kind of like a more realistic thing. And I've been thinking a lot lately about these expectations we have of what life should be, or like these ways our brains get imprinted upon, where I wish we could change the paradigm so we don't expect this two parent perfect, like everyone's attuned to you when you're growing up thing, because I think that's where trauma comes from, like lowercase t trauma. But if we were raised in a space of like, you know, your parents are going to do their best and you have the skills you need to figure it out, like we would have less kind of, I would have less kind of reactionary healing where I'm trying to go back and like learn stuff about my childhood. If people during my childhood had been better at being like, hey, like this is not a reflection of you, you know, let's go figure out your voice and what you need. So to answer your question briefly, how I had my voice was, it depended on the parent, but some of the pros of this situation, because I'm not making it sound great, is that me and my dad were very close. We would talk on the phone all the time, and I could share things with my dad because it was over the phone that I wouldn't necessarily want to tell my mom about, and that helped us to stay close. And because I was the youngest for my mom, I was a baby, and I got some of that treatment. And yeah, so like I think I actually definitely had a voice. It's just there's probably some people pleasing in there from a young age. And I think, who doesn't, what neurodivergent burnout doesn't look back and be like, oh, yeah, it started then.
As a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I agree with you, like, as a child, you look up to your parents and you're like, these are perfect
Hmm.
people. You
Yeah.
have no idea, you don't know anything different, and whatever it is that they're doing, that's how you think that it's reflecting on you because of
Hmm.
the way that you are who you are and everything, but in
Exactly.
actuality, that's not true, but other adults are not really thinking like, "Oh, let me make sure I'm telling this to this child," because
Hmm.
how much would we have actually had, like, retained that,
Exactly.
those words versus, like, what it is that we are seeing happen, and interpreting that way in our little kid brains, so, you had mentioned before, like, that's what therapy is for, so you can learn that, okay, my parents are 2 human beings, they're not perfect,
Hmm.
and probably the first time they're having these children, like, this is the first time that they're having the kids, like, even though they might have multiples, how
Right. Yep.
they don't necessarily know that they're doing something poorly
Hmm.
until it's decades later, unfortunately, but it sounds like that you have grace for, the people who are raising you now to kind of know more about them and to, like, understand more about them.
Yeah, I try. It's definitely sometimes more intellectual than like felt, but I definitely try. Like, I it's definitely not any kid's fault what their parents do, whether or not their parents are together. Like, it's just not. Now, mind you, there are the kids who burn up houses and get a little bit in trouble, and then the parents might be like, "Hey, this is you messed up raising a child. I gotta go." But outside of those like special instances where the kid really is going through something, like it is not. There's no cause and effect there. It's like you're just along for the ride, and like you said, if we could do a little bit better, um, if we could do a little bit better of like ingraining that in kids. That also, in a weird way, is my theory around how we get less people who behave like Clay Thompson. Like if we start teaching kids differently from the beginning about like self-esteem and how to treat themselves, like that's the way that men act out. And by cheating, by like being, ego chasing, all that, like I think they're all the same thing, right? Like if we start healing kids or teaching them from a different source material from early on, we'll have different outcomes. And I will say that I think our generation and like our generation and then maybe like the next one to come, I don't really know if I trust these kids, but somewhere down the line we're going to get parents who are understanding that, cuz before a certain year nobody understood that. Nobody was doing that for their kids.
No, 80s, 90s kids, we weren't getting that,
Yeah,
and not because parents were like, "Oh, that's what they need." No, that's not what I'm gonna give them.
exactly.
They just didn't know,
Exactly.
what children actually needed. And yeah, like Clay Thompson. Oh my goodness. When you said his name, I was like, "Who?" And then I remembered.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Big topic.
like his insecurity, it seems like is overarching a lot of his the way that he's dealing with his relationships. Obviously,
Mhm.
we do not know this man,
Sure,
but,
sure. I'm
we
armchair
can
psychology.
infer. We have eyes, and, we can see behavior. So, yeah, like, the insecurity, I'm sure, from a child, if that were never addressed or affirmed, then especially in relationships, maybe someone
Mhm.
isn't insecure in other areas of their life, but maybe there's just one glaring thing, and it's like, how do we address this now? Because there needs to be some kind of a change, and a
Mhm.
part of this show is like, okay, who are you becoming? Like what about your life do you see reflected back to you and you're thinking like, maybe I do need to like dig into that and be more
Mhm.
introspective with that, which is one of the ways that this show was even birthed was because I had had a falling out with a very good friend at the time.
Mm.
And she was like, "Do you even think about some of the things that you do and say?" And I was like, "No." What's the issue? Like, what do
Like,
you
I'll be
mean?
honest, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I had never had that experience with a friend, family member before. And so I was taken off guard, but I also felt like, okay, well, let me think about what she's saying because maybe there's something that I'm missing here. Maybe there
Mhm,
is a
mhm,
blind spot.
mhm,
And so then that just kind of made me curious about, okay, what are other people seeing about themselves and how are other people growing? And, how did they
mhm,
become like who they are today?
mhm.
And
Yeah,
you were
that's beautiful.
oh, thanks. Yeah, yeah. You were mentioning earlier how you kind of got into the podcasting world
Mhm.
was through stand up. So tell me about stand up for
Comedy,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so I guess I'll just when I was in college, I started to really enjoy comedy randomly, and it was, I had like a it's so stupid. Like, it's like saying I had a Walkman, but I had like a Sirius XM subscription on my phone, and something about my car, it transferred from my car over. And so I would just listen to Comedy Central Radio, and I would just listen to comics tell jokes all the time. And I'd be like, oh, I guess I just really like this. And then when I got older and started going to comedy shows, to the point where like I felt very comfortable going to a comedy show by myself and would enjoy it, whatever. Um, Whenever you talk, at least I would say one of the nice things is I lived in Austin, and Austin used to have a really, or I think they still do, but like now they have all this Joe Rogan stuff going on. But they used to have a really chill comedy club where like the bar and the mixer, like open mic space, is where you come in and you have to go through to like the main ballroom basically. And then on the way out, the comics would just be there hanging out. And so I talked to comic after comic who would just say, hey, if you like comedy so much, go try it. And I think that's just like what you're told, like each one teach one. And so eventually I did try it, and I realized like writing jokes is kind of a way that I talk to myself in my head. Like, I think we all, for those of us who have an inner monologue, when I'm sitting, when I'm idle, I'm writing jokes. And I didn't realize that because I wasn't particularly funny growing up. Like, I was very serious, very high achieving. And so, and I had a creative spark, but like, because I couldn't draw or sing, I didn't think I was artistic. And so it was in my 20s that I was like, oh, like this is a thing. And then Austin is a beautiful city for improv. Again, post pandemic is a different story. But when I was coming up, there were 5 schools for improv in Austin. And so I trained at Merlin Works, which is woman owned. And it was a wonderful experience where people like kind of fast lighted me, one for like diversity and inclusion, and make sure that like I didn't fall out the mix as like one of the few black women, and then also because I had talent. And those two things obviously go together. But I will say, like, again, I think the my teacher Kevin, shout out to him, was he made me a TA before I had finished doing the other courses, because he recognized like, okay, we want to keep you around and put you in the pipeline. um and I hope that's actually okay to do. But in Trump's day and age, I don't know. But I think in general, it worked out great for me. I was great TA. It was awesome. They were very supportive of me. So I graduated through there. I also took classes at Cold Town. I did a show at Institution. So like I was in Hideout as well. So I was trying to just learn my way. And then I got cast for a sketch show at Cold Town, which is one of the theaters. When I got cast for that show, that was a big deal for me. I was the only black woman on the cast. It was one of my first experiences in a theater. Like, there were so many faux pas and things I did wrong, like in rehearsal, because I just didn't know how these things went. Like, it was all very new to me. And then the world shut down, and I realized like I had all this stuff in my head or jokes I've been writing, and I was like, okay, I guess I don't need a formal education to try to write it. And so basically I just took all the stuff I've been doing, the sketch, the improv, and the sketch, stand up, and the improv and the sketch. And then I spent the time over the pandemic writing my own show, which actually is in post production right now. And I've put out a request for editors, and I got too many responses, and we're gonna figure that out. But I do plan to put my show back out by the end of the year. It's called Now This Is a Sketch, and I would write it whenever I'd be talking to one of my best friends, and anything funny I would say, or like a we would just be joking and be like, oh, what if blah blah blah, and she'd be like, that's a sketch, write that down, write that down. And so at some point I had a list of premises that I thought were very funny. And I when I got left my corporate job, when I got laid off, I was like, okay, I'm decompressing. And so I went to Mexico for a month because I also want to be, I'm fake Latina. And so I went to Mexico, and I like had this like artist residency place, and I just like put all my premises on note cards, and I sat and I looked at them because there was like a tack wall for artists, and I was like, okay, which ones are making it in the show? And then I would write that down, and I came up with like 20 sketches or something. Like there's enough for 2 seasons. And then I came back and I crowdfunded it, and we filmed it. Like we shot over 3 days in Detroit, and it was wonderful. And like I got to premiere like up and coming actors and performers, and some people it's their first time. I think I had a great experience, but then ran out of money, and then I had to like go and do the whole get my own job thing. And while I was getting my own job, it was like a corporate thingy where like I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep the creative stuff a little bit hush hush. I don't want them to conflict. And now I'm in a place where I realize I can try to make them live co- uh, they can coexist. All that to say, that is kind of just this journey of me slowly but surely realizing I don't need to have gone and gotten an MFA or been formally trained in this to try it, and I have enough talent to do it. Like whenever somebody would actually compliment me, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna internalize that. And now some of the stuff I do is just to because I think it's funny, and that's purely enough.
That's amazing. I mean, the whole journey, like you had started. So were you in Austin to kind of like pursue the improv side of
No,
things?
that's just a job that I got coming out of school. Was Austin based, and I was like, okay, cool. So yeah, like I think it's one of those things that when I think back to it when I was younger, I was really interested in broadcasting. Like I wanted to be a sports broadcaster, and then I ended up going to a school where I couldn't pursue that, which is another long story. But um, I guess my point is that I always wanted to do something creative, and it came back around in my 20s and 30s in an unexpected way. So I think it's just like it was kind of gonna happen no matter what. It just looked different.
Than you had planned, and
Yeah.
it sounds like you are open to it. Like there's this improv, in a city like Austin where that can be fostered, and you were getting that um positive reinforcement, like this is funny, we want to see what's happening, like
Mhm.
yay over here, you have your hands in different pies and everything, and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna pursue this, and I'm gonna the pandemic messed up a lot of things for everyone, of course.
Yeah.
Um, but that's just really cool that you were focusing on writing and what can you do to actually make it,
Mhm.
um, to bring something forth from it,
Yeah.
and to shoot. That's really great. I mean, I know how much it takes to money wise,
Yeah.
having a
It's a lot.
crew behind you
Mhm.
and that focus, that dedication to create something, and now to have like, okay, I have something that I can show for it and then hopefully raise more money. But what was that experience like? Would you say it was like a one woman show, or was it like you created these sketches but you
Mhm.
had other people acting in it?
Yeah. Okay. One thing I realized when you were talking is I said the wrong theater. I did sketch at Fallout, and that doesn't matter to you, but there's somebody listening who's like, this bitch better say Fallout theaters because it's sort of, yeah. Okay. So yes, I did touch 4 out of the 5 theaters. Yeah. So I was when I was writing it. When you're writing a show, like there's traditionally a writer's room, like or Tyler Perry is notorious for not having a writer's room, and that's why it stinks, right? And so,
Yes.
but for me, it was yeah, it was a time when I was like, I wanted to prove something to myself, so I wrote all the sketches by myself. There's only one or two. One sketch was one of my cast members actually got a co-writing credit because it was so the sketch exist. I the raw footage is out there somewhere. Again, I'll be happy to share with you when I fix it. But it was the Cardi B on Love and Hip Hop. The What Was the Reason sketch. It was that like what was the reason? What was the reason? It was that, but in Shakespeare. And I
Oh,
didn't know how to write in iambic pentameter or whatever. And so she knew how to write it. And she was like, I can fix this for you. And she made, cause I was like, thou is, what is y'all doing? Like, she was like, that's not going to work for anybody who actually knows what they're talking about. And so, yeah, like I got help with stuff. And then it was actually really cool. And I think life in some ways, a lot of creatives are depressed, and life in some ways is like living from like hill to hill, like, peak to peak. And this was one of the peaks for sure because I originally thought I would film it in Austin, and then again got laid off, moved home. It was a year later, crowdfunded, and people came out the woodwork to support me. My parents mostly, but like a lot of community people did, or I did raise money. And then I was here in Detroit and I did a casting call. Like I learned how to do like casting, actors access or whatever. People responded. I got great people. I got great talent off the street. Like people who are not who are living and working their lives, parents or truck drivers or whatever, and were like, I also want to act. So I got everyone I needed. And so then what happened was we most of the money was spent on space because like I would use like Pure Space, or because Airbnb is tricky because people have weird stuff around like bad experiences with people coming in and filming, but Pure Space is like they expect you to use it for like some type of commercial thing. So basically I had a space on Pure Space my last day of filming that was like a scam. It was a scam. We showed up to the house, it was already booked. There was already someone in there, and I was like, okay, fuck. Like, so I had to. It was, but this was our third day of shooting over a weekend, and so I think we had built rapport. It was like me and my small cast. There's like 8 of us total, 8 of us plus Emerald. Shout out to her. That's like my cousin now, just from this experience. But she was my first AD, but really like she was really the director because I was in a lot of it. And so we had built rapport by the third day to where like my team knew I was actually doing something. We had filmed half the sketches already, but we had a lot of indoor shooting for day 3. And so we went to like a Panera Bread downtown. I think it was, yeah, it was a Panera. It was like something like that. I think I passed it, and it's like a restaurant. And we sat there, and I was like, well, fuck it, this is come out the budget, but I get everyone lunch. And I was just trying to find an Airbnb that would let me film. And because I was booking it, but I was also like, can I film in your house? And I'm like, when you say film, it can mean, again, for them it could be anything. So they
Yes,
were
it
like,
can mean anything.
yeah, yeah. And so some people were like, no. And then I was just like, I promise you, I'm not trying to mess your space up. I just need a place to go. And so we found this house on the east side, so random, and not deep east side, but like it was, it was cool. And then we got there, and we just pushed through, and people like changed their plans and stayed overnight. Like it ended up being, because it was a multiple bedroom house, so like some people, we just slept in it. At some point we just shot all night. And it was just, and these are people who like I've run into one of them since then, but like never met again, never worked together again. It was just like a perfect thing where we were all committed to getting it done. And like the setup wasn't perfect, the sound and the lighting had to be adjusted, but we worked it out. So it was a going back to like my peaks and valleys thing. It was like we all pulled it together, and these people who were getting paid very minimally by me and being paid and fed, and really were just trying to get their credit. They were like happy to help me, and I'm really grateful for that. And that is why I do plan on putting it back out, even though it's been a couple years, because I want to circle through and follow through on this work that I did, but. It kind of came together just by taking, I will say, one step at a time, and just like be like, okay, fuck it. The end goal is this. What can I do today to get there closer, and then it'll kind of fall into place if you keep going.
Mhm, mhm. That's amazing, an amazing story, like, the perseverance that you have to have, especially as a creative. It's like, "Okay, I would love to just be able to write and act in this thing, but now I have to do
Yeah.
all the logistics and everything else that
Hmm.
you have to produce this thing," and you get to tap into a lot of different facets of yourself that you probably didn't really know existed and that you were capable of. And also I think like being open to other people helping you, I think is a very humble thing to do. And
Hmm. Oh, for sure.
like, okay, let's all make this together and see what comes of it, as opposed to being so like rigid on
Hmm.
a creative idea that you might have, because it's like it's good to talk about your idea and have it get that oxygen that you need so that it can actually become something, as opposed to like,
Hmm.
"Oh,
Hmm.
this is what I need this to be and exactly this," and then you put it out there and it doesn't feel right, because you were thwarting it. But it sounds like you were
Yeah.
having, a really cool time getting it done. So am I hearing you right? You when you were younger, you weren't necessarily trying to tap into that creative side that you
Mm-mm.
have?
No, not at all. Um, yeah, I think it. like I said, it kind of came from slowly but surely following my interest. So when I
Mm,
tell you now, I can be like, okay, what, like 15 years ago I started on this path, and it makes sense and it looks like a certain thing from just because I have a quote unquote body of work now, but it's only because at a certain point I said, all right, I'm gonna do this monthly, weekly, regularly, or I'm gonna like I'm gonna be in somebody else's show and let that build up my confidence. Or like I let Brandon on our, and we was watching, like he's a producer, and when I was in business school there was like there's a year of like a good discontinuation of us because I could not do it. I was just always in school or doing something for school or recruiting. Um, but he picked it back up and he's the executive producer. And so like if he, as long as he can show up and set up the stream and everything, I'm there. And so I think I, I had to build that up by just slowly but surely showing up and booking stuff and doing stuff for free and putting myself out there. And there's been plenty of times I've reached out to people to like try to expand the show or grow. It hasn't worked out. And, you know, but anyway, the I you get there kind of by those baby steps. But when I was younger, I always loved TV and film, and I always loved silly stuff. My parents loved TV. Like my mom, like I might go to the movies tonight because it's $5 movie day. Like you know, I'm big on that. But I don't think I thought I could do it or imagine myself doing it. But it's because there was this because I was a gifted kid, it was like this idea is, well, you can do like a nice job that will make money, so that's what you need to go do, right? So it was never like doctor lawyer pressure, but it was always like I will say this, my if I had said, hey, I want to be a comedian, my family would have been like, all right, like how do we do that in the best way possible? So it wasn't like they distracted me from it, but I just never even thought about it because I was like, I could actually have a corporate job that is a stable salary for my family because beside my dad is one thing, but on my mom's side of the family, everyone's a teacher. And so that just comes with a certain like after like 10, 15 years, you're good, but like that comes with a certain like budget. And so that was just kind of the norm for us. So this idea was like you can go out and make money, you need to go do it.
yeah, yeah, I see. So it wasn't necessarily that you were trying to get away from your creative side. It just hadn't been tapped
You
into
know, yeah.
yet because you didn't really necessarily fully understand it or like see it as an option.
Yeah, I think there was also a mask like layer of like I don't know when you started letting your mama know that you cuss, you know, but like it took a second.
I mean, she'll see it sometimes on this show,
Right,
but
but
like
it
she doesn't. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't cuss in front of her.
yeah, so I'm like, okay, my comedy is like my true voice is provocative. I guess I would
Mm,
say like that's just how it comes out of me. And so it's like
mhm,
I also had to get to a point where I'm like, okay, mama, I would actively be like, mom, please don't watch. But
mm.
if she does watch, I'm like, hey, I gotta be me. Like that's kind of how it is. So some part of it was coming into that and being like, hey, this is actually my sense of humor. This is like I love black women and black culture, but I'm very influenced by like these random white comedians. Like it just happens to be what I grew up on and what I saw growing up. And so it's like that brand of comedy is just who I am, and it took some time to even step into that, I think, and recognize I can, like, I still very much identify as a black comic, like I would prefer that, but I do find that I do realize like there's when I think about stand up, for example, or when I think about my sketches, they don't my sister's not my target audience, unfortunately, because it's not her type of comedy. So it's like I do think I make black comedy for anybody who can. I guess I make a very sardonic black comedy, and I want it to be accessible, but it is accessible, but I realize it's not everyone's bag. And so as I was
Yeah,
finding my voice with that, yeah, it's
it
tough.
might not be mainstream, but it's still
Yes,
black
yes,
comedy because you're a black woman who's creating it. It's
exactly.
like
Yeah, it's
through
not
your
urban comedy. Yeah,
lens.
yeah,
Right, right.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's a different genre, but it's still
yeah.
like under the umbrella of, blackness.
Right, and so
You
finding an
are a black
audience for
person.
that,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
finding my
yeah.
voice, finding an audience for that was where the challenge was. Like, how do is this worth doing? Like, do people want this? And then realize like it kind of doesn't matter because I feel better when I put it out there.
I love that. I mean, that's a great like mantra to have, especially like younger people listening to this. I mean, if there's something that you want to do in your life and you're not really sure how to market yourself or whatever, still in the meantime, exercise what you want to do. Like do those things so that you become comfortable in it and the audience will find you. that
Yeah.
they'll
Yeah.
say, like, "Put it out there, the audience will find you, practice, like, the 10,000 hours of practicing so
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
get
the Malcolm
really
Gladwell.
good at
Yeah,
something." Yeah, like, opportunity is luck plus preparation, so kinda
absolutely.
need to do both of those things.
Yeah,
I think
this is random, but it's related. Like when I
yeah.
went to business school, I one of my biggest critiques of some of my classmates, especially like the white men, is I was like, y'all have no idea that we have the same sense of humor, but it's because you're perceiving because I'm so forwardly black, like and so culturally black, that you don't realize like we can coexist in a lot more ways than you realize, but because they don't see but I also didn't want to like perform, oh, I'm hey, guess what? I like Will Ferrell too. Like I didn't want to perform that for them. So I think that's kind of what the interesting thing is like you said, find your audience. And my audience is black women and people of color like me, as well as white people, which is cool. Like, um, but it's interesting when I was in a not even a majority white school, but when I was in a space that was less black, and people didn't get that like I actually do get it, but because I talk about like my ethics and culture as a black woman, you assume that I don't have that same sense of humor, and I really do. And it's a loss for a lot of people that like there's so much intersectional comedy, and I think this is cliche, but like that's what the beauty of the internet. Like that's weird stuff can find people.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I had an episode last season called "Where's Our Monoculture?" and I'm talking about how
Mm,
there really is no monoculture,
mhm,
but the beauty of it is that we can find a lot of different things that we connect with, and then maybe talk to each other in our community about those things that we're connecting with, because it's not going to be everything isn't going to be mainstream. There's so many
mhm.
different things to tap into, but that could be a good thing. So we're not all watching the same 5 things. Our imagination can expand, and then we can
Absolutely.
discuss it with each other. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, so I want to move into our my ending segment. This is something new that I'm doing for season 4. And Chanel, thank you so much for sharing all of what you have shared so far, and being vulnerable, and like showing your creative side. I know that that can be very vulnerable for people. Um, but what I want to ask you in this ending segment is, and I'm still thinking about what I'm going to name it, but if your 20-year-old self could see you now, what would amaze them?
20 is 2002. Damn, what was that? Hold on. That's tough. I didn't think about 20. I was still in college. Okay. What would amaze them? Okay, that's tough because I think um it does feel very much like I think of myself a lot of times segmented in terms of like I was this person, I was that person, I was that person. But when you compare me to 20-year-old me, it really is like I've grown up in her. Because we do have a lot of similarities, and a lot of things that are still silly and like fun and childish about us, like those things persist. But and then some of those bad habits are still there in terms of like uh interpersonal relationships and like kind of the choices I make. But in a lot of ways, like when I say growing up, I literally am thinking about myself like that 20-year-old, and then a foundation I've built on under or on top of how you want to think about it to be where I'm at now in my mid 30s, because um there's there's a grounding and a growth I've had in who I am that is I don't even know if I realized how much I needed that when I was younger. And there's also a lot of growth through challenges that has happened, and so that foundation is there. And I think even now I'm still trying to figure out how to integrate all of that into myself. But is the question was what would she say, or what would I tell her?
What would your 20-year-old self seeing you
Thank you.
now, what would amaze them? Well, how would they be amazed by you
Mm-hmm. I
currently?
man, this is me overthinking it because I'm like, okay, does she know everything I've been through, or is she just meeting me like I just hopped
She's
out a
just
portal?
meeting you, like, maybe you're just, like, a stranger off the street.
Oh yeah. Oh, she would definitely. I think we would vibe. I think we'd be cool. I think we would definitely hang out. I'd be like a a big sister to her, which is weird because I beat her. But yeah, no, I think she would like me. And because I think I was definitely becoming me in terms of because that was around the time I was finding my sense of humor. That was around the time I was finding my politics as a woman, which was like a big thing because I think I don't know if you have the same experience growing up in Detroit, but it can be a very like patriarchal kind of upbringing. And there was a lot of judgment I had for other women and myself growing up that I had to unlearn in college around understanding like why used to be a person who like didn't have girlfriends that are girls, and that is not a way to exist. And then I went to a women's college and I was like, okay, that was actually patriarchy that was making me do all that and misogynoir. But yeah, like I think I was becoming her. So it's interesting because I think in yeah, she was getting there. And then I think about some of the issues that she had that in a weird way have resolved, but are also still very much present. Uh, because they're just like parts of my life or like things that I did in college that I still have those relationships and those friendships. And so it's funny because those same people are still here, but in very different capacities. So yeah, I think she would actually be like, "Whoa, it's been 14 years. Like, what do you mean?" She'd be like, "We seem so similar." But I think if we dug in and had the conversation, she would be like, "Wow, there's a lot of like deeper foundational growth there that I
Mhm.
appreciate." But I am still maybe a little bit. I'm still living out my child because I took myself so seriously as a child. I think I'm being sillier now than I was then. So that's probably like I take myself slightly less seriously now than I ever did. So she might pick up on that and be like, "You need to get it together."
Yes, yes, I see. So you think maybe like you were saying she might notice the levels to you. So maybe like the quiet confidence that you have now compared to then, like maybe she was trying too hard, but now you know that you don't really need to do that. You don't need to take yourself so seriously, but you can still get the things that you want to get done accomplished,
hmm
but it doesn't have to be like with no humor and with no joy.
Yeah, I think like that's definitely true and valid. One of the ways I'm thinking about it is that my worldview has changed, and I think that's something you kind of have to figure out. But like I think first of all, I've accepted like that capitalism is a scam, and starting there is helpful because it's like, all right, I don't take myself so seriously in the sense of like I gotta figure it out. I gotta do like I've been broke, I've been paid. I've been all of it, and I'm like, okay, the what really mattered was how I treated myself and the relationships and the love I had. Like, I kind of have that grounding now. And so I think I took myself seriously in the sense that if she, if she knew like could track my bank statement, she'd be like, what are you doing? But I would be like, girl, it's the world is ending, it don't matter, right? And so at that time she'd be like, there's no way we went to college for you to be do what you're doing now. And I'm like, yes, it's there's a reason we're on a path. So yeah, I think I did take my, and I think I took myself too seriously interpersonally. Like I wanted I think we all want validation from people, but I also like just was struggling to understand. Like I was just underdiagnosed. Like I didn't realize I had ADHD. I didn't realize I was probably on the spectrum. And so I just didn't understand so much about relationships. And so now I just realized I don't have to understand it. Like people will still gravitate to me, and I will still have what I need. Like those people you're trying to cling to, they can go. Like you will be okay. And I think I would have been better to be around because I think that anxiety of trying to like figure things out makes it hard for people, made it hard for me to know the real me. So I think there's just very subtle differences in terms of how I look at stuff. I do wish that I do wish there was a more so like from now to then, I wish I could say that I had figured out a lot more of that stuff, but I think it's more like I'm just not in a different place. An elevated person from where I was. Like I'm still gonna be me, and I'm still gonna be growing out of those things and into new things with the same perspective. And I think it is nice when I think about it. There are people like I'm celebrating my birthday soon, and there are people who've known me since I was 20 coming, and there are people who met me in my 30s that are coming, and they have different but similar understandings of Chanel. Like there's still an intersection there, and I appreciate that. But it is very funny for like me to meet friends now who all I do is talk shit and be silly, and there are people who are like, Chanel was not like that in college, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like I've changed.
Yeah, yeah, but I do like what you're saying about you've changed, you've grown, but you'll always be who you are because you're growing out of that person. um, or
Yeah.
um, coming up from that foundation of that person. Um,
A lot
yeah,
of it is self acceptance, I think, too. Like realizing that you can kind of you okay, you can gamify trying to grow and change. Like I think we all do that. Like it sounds like you had a similar experience. Somebody told you to work on something, and you're like, all right, like how do I do that? And you started to lay it out. And dang, I think it's lagged. Can you see me?
yeah, I can see you.
Did I just lag? Am I good?
I think a little
Okay, cool.
bit, but I,
Like
yeah, I think it's
we kind
good.
of take okay, we're syncing up now. I think like there's a little bit of a desire to like attack self improvement and do it the right way or whatever. And I do what I'm realizing as I go through life is like, okay, the real work is in accepting who you are and changing the ways that you make other the ways that you make other people feel so that you can have the relationships that are good for you, like not using the way that you are as an excuse to harm people. And outside of that, you kind of just got to make grace with like, like you're gonna for me, I'm gonna be a little bit goofy, I'm gonna be a little bit weird, I'm gonna be crazy sexy cool at the same time, and like not trying to overcome one or the other, or like wash out one or the other in my understanding of myself. And not trying to imagine the worst ways that people see me and realizing that doesn't really matter because I'm internalizing that, and that's doesn't have to be lived in reality. So yeah, I think a little bit of tangent, but yeah, that's where I'm just trying to think about like how I move forward, integrating all these things I've learned about myself so that I actually don't cause myself pain in like non-accepting not accepting myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that was like the perfect ending to this, like talking about okay, how who are you becoming going forward, not trying to white knuckle like I have to change like oh, someone gave me this negative feedback about myself and now I have to like become a different
Mhm.
person. I don't think we need that as an extreme, but it's a way of like how do I grow and like go beyond that. If there is something that you might want to tweak. But sometimes just because someone gives you that feedback doesn't mean that like you have to completely change your life, but it is good to be reflective on that and see okay, how do I want to change or like how do I want to shift out of this. um
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
yes,
and back to
thank
what we said before, like if we could teach kids that,
you.
or like in the words of the goat, that's a message we deliver to little kids. Like if we could share that and be like, hey, this is how you should think about yourself. It's gonna be
Yes,
okay. Like you're gonna find your space. There is no left, right, like black, white. You just need to be you, and the people for you will gravitate, and the people who don't, it'll be okay. That's not a rejection. Man, like what a relief that would be. But yeah, I do think that's the lesson at the end of the day.
what a relief. So yes, I think that is a beautiful sentiment and one that the kids should definitely listen to. But yes, thank you so much, Chanel, for doing this. And I
Thank you
really
for having
appreciate
me.
you, yeah, coming on here and opening up. And I got to learn so much about you. And please let everyone know where they can find you to listen to your show or watch any of the creative endeavors that you have.
Yeah, thank you. So across all socials, the podcast is We Was Watching. Yep, just We Was Watching. And our email is We Was Watching Podcast at gmail.com. But I'm Chanel creating across all the socials, and you can usually find the link to one or the other either way. But yeah, I please if follow me and stay tuned for I've been trying to be more consistent about my 1 minute movie reviews, but also when I do re-release my show and kind of start putting that out there, it'll be through those that handle through Chanel creating. And so we have a YouTube for both channels for me and for We Was Watching. So we'd love to have more subscribers. We just hit 500, and then we realized, okay, monetization is really at 1,000. But hey, one hill after another. So we're gonna get there. But yeah, you guys reach out anytime. Love new followers and people who watch the same shows as me, so we can be friends. Would love to hear from anyone.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember y'all were talking about getting to 500 subscribers to monetize, but are you saying that they like changed
I
the
think so.
metrics of it
Yeah.
all?
Like now we can create a community so people could join, and so people could pay privately if they want to, which we haven't tried to set up yet. But like in terms of YouTube paying us for views, we're not there yet. And to be fair, we haven't had any viral videos that have gone like into the thousands to where we get paid. So I know there's something to be said there. It also is frustrating because I have joked about us being shadow banned because you have to type in so specific to find us. Because like we was watching, we'll bring up all these other people, and it's like you have to literally for me. But we was watching Chanel Brandon, and then it'll bring it up because the like similar like me in the making. I'm like I have to put in podcast because sometimes it'll try to like amplify bigger things. So I'm really trying to, or things the algorithm wants to like prioritize. So I'm really trying to kind of push through that. But yeah, it is a lot. It is a great thing to have 500 subscribers. We're very grateful. Because like again, we started this 2-3 years ago and we had none. So we are definitely growing in there. But I know more than 500 people. So I am. Sometimes I take it personal because I'm like everybody I know. All you gotta do is click that button, and y'all ain't done it. But that's okay. We got real fans.
Yeah. We'll get on them soon. We'll
Yes,
listen.
yes, yes.
Just push subscribe. It's
It's
very
not a
easy.
hard thing. It don't cost no
Yes.
money.
Right, right. And I will have Chanel's links in the show notes. And yeah,
Awesome.
this has been another episode of the Me in the Making podcast. And I'll have a thing at the end. Y'all can see how to follow me. And if you're watching this right now on YouTube, just go ahead and click subscribe. But yes, thank you so much again,
You're
Chanel.
supposed to do this.
And right,
Click
right.
subscribe, guys. Like and follow.
Right. A pro, a pro.
Yeah.
This has been another episode of the Me in the Making podcast. Please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Tell a friend, tell a family member. We all deserve to grow and change and become our best selves, whatever that might look like to you. And please connect on Instagram at Making Me Pod, on TikTok. You can email me at melly@makingmepod.com. I would love to hear from you. Let me know if you want to be a guest on the show. And yeah, I'm just having such a great time. I'm so happy to have been able to launch this video episode for you all, and come again. Bye.